In this episode, we're going to take a look at an alternative to three-point lighting, traditional three-point lighting, where you typically have a key light, a fill light, and then either a back or a hair light. Instead, we're going to look at a key light, a rim light, and then a hair light. Check this out. Now, it's been a few years since we did our original really cheap video lighting. That's actually been my most viewed video, thanks to you guys. And honestly, we've learned a whole ton about lighting for video since that time. And in that case, we're just using two, in essence, key lights. They were both the same power, one on the right, one on the left, just to get really flat lighting, and then a hair light up above. And in that particular video, it was just, the hair light was way too hot. So it was kind of a, learned a lot since then. Let's just leave it at that. This is another, and of course, since then we've done a whole bunch of different looks at different types of lighting. In this one, I want to look at a lighting style that is kind of fallen into over time that I think is working pretty well. And that is one where I have a key light here, and this is a softbox, and we'll take a look around in just a second in more detail so you can get a view of what all this looks like. But just one softbox here is a key light. And the idea is I have it set up so it sort of wraps around, so I do get some light falling on this side of my face as well. But again, the majority is coming from this side. Then I've got a rim light back here, which is probably 8 feet behind me and off to my left. That's a camera right. And the idea is on that is just to bring in and fill in a little bit of light on this side. So rather than using a fill that's in front of me, we're using a rim that's behind me, and it sort of wraps around just a little bit. And then of course we have our hair light up above as always before, just to kind of keep a little separation between me and the background. One additional light in this case, you could just as well use a backdrop, but I'm using another light that's shining onto an unfinished concrete wall here in the back with a pattern. So that light's shooting through what we call a cookie or a cucoloris, and that's just making that pattern on the background. So let's take a look around here so you can see in a little more detail how to get this effect. Let's do a quick walkthrough here. So right now I'm standing where the camera normally sits on this tripod, or if we want to be like the cool kids, we call those sticks. But this is where my camera typically sits. I'm using a really long lens. You can't really see that here. That's an 80 to 200 millimeter lens. So it can zoom in pretty close, or well, it can pull a subject in from pretty far away. But the idea here is that I want to convey is I'm actually 15 feet from that chair, which is where I normally sit. So 15 feet between me and the chair, and just so you can get a sense for the spatial relationships that we're creating here, just so you get an idea of where to place lights to get different lighting effects. And then as we walk up, of course, as I mentioned before, there's the seat where I normally sit. Please excuse my unfinished basement here. It's got a lot of clutter, it's a lot of storage room, but just wanted to give you the idea of how this works. Over here, just to camera left, or the talent's right, is our main softbox, and this is part of the ePhoto 4500 watt compact fluorescent lighting kit, softbox kit. We've reviewed that in the past. If you haven't seen that, go ahead and check that out. I'll also put a link for this particular kit down in the description below. And again, this is a $200 kit. It includes 3 of these softboxes. Each of these, I don't want to get too into this here, but just take a quick look in here. You can't see a thing. It's got 5 compact fluorescent bulbs, just so you get a sense for the power that this thing puts out. They're pretty good. They've got some issues, but they're pretty good. Go check out that review if you're interested in more details. So that's our key light, and that's going to produce the majority of the light that falls on the face of the talent. And then back here we have what I'm calling our rim light. This is probably, again, 8 feet from the chair. So chair to here, about 8 feet. This is an LED light. I actually haven't talked about this one yet. I'm still getting some work in on it so that I can give you a good review. But it's a Fotodiox 508A or something like that. We'll get the exact details for you. That'll be in the description down below as well. I got this one because it's a battery powered light. It does have some issues that I'm working through, but overall it's pretty good, and we'll, again, as I said before, we'll get a review for you. Just to give you a sense of the size, I have a really big hand. This is about, that's maybe 14 inches, and that's probably 8 inches maybe, just to give you a sense for the size. 508 LED lights, but just to give you a sense of the size that we're working with there. So that's the light that comes, and that wraps around sort of the side, the back and the side of the talent's head, and really sort of defines kind kind of gives them a little bit more dimension and sets them apart from the backdrop. Now let me come back out here. Again, the chair where I'm normally sitting, and then right up there is that clamp light. We've talked about those. Those were in the original video about really cheap video lighting. And that's just a clamp light with a compact fluorescent bulb in it, shooting pretty much straight down on top of the talent, and we're using much less power in that than we would here in the softbox, just to kind of balance it out, because it is quite a bit, it's pretty close to the talent, and you just really want just a touch of light there to separate your talent from the backdrop. Now, in this case, I've also got this light that is producing a pattern on the background. Again, this is the unfinished concrete wall in the basement here. Kind of a little bit of a grungy look, but if I were doing an interview, what I might do is put a light like this up in, this is a Fresnel light. We also did a review on this one. This is 650 watt, it's sort of an airy 650 watt Fresnel clone. And this is a focusable light. This one I'm shooting through a cookie, or technically what it is a piece of cardboard with slits cut into it to create that pattern on the wall there. And we put it up pretty close. We've got these barn doors. We can focus the light, or not, you don't really focus the light, but limit the light to just through the cardboard, and then we focus it, and that creates that pattern on the backdrop there. So I hope that gives you a good sense for kind of where we place things. Again, key light here is probably 3 or 4 feet from the face of the talent. The rim light back here is about probably 7 or 8 feet behind the talent and off to the side, so it wraps around them. The hair light is just, in this case, probably 3 feet from the top of the talent's head. And then the Fresnel light here that's making our backdrop, probably 7 or 8 feet away from the wall. Just, again, to give you an idea of where everything sits. Hope you found that helpful. Now, even if you don't love this this particular look, at least hopefully it was helpful for you in terms of where to place lights to get a particular look. And go ahead and leave comments down below, questions down below. Happy to take those. And again, we're all learning, so let's all keep it kind, but also provide some constructive feedback. If you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and do that, and we'll get you more great videos on how to improve your lighting and your sound for video. Talk to you soon.